Coming up on today's show, Mike McGlinchey is out for the year after suffering a torn quad in that loss to the Arizona Cardinals yesterday, a brutal defeat. Also, we're going to take a look at some Mike McGlinchey replacements, but first, this is why you subscribe to the 49ers Report by Chat Sports, because when breaking news happens, we have you covered. So hit that red subscribe button down below, and let's get to 44,000 subscribers. Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Sr. We have some breaking news to get to early on this Monday. Mike McGlinchey, the right tackle for the 49ers, drafted in the top 10 a few years ago out of Notre Dame, has been lost for the year due to a torn quad that he suffered in yesterday's loss against the Arizona Cardinals at home in front of a packed crowd at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara. Adam Schefter breaking this news on Twitter, saying this: 49ers right tackle Mike McGlinchey tore his quad and is out for the season per source, the latest injury blow for San Francisco. And as we know, this is a franchise, this is a roster, this is a team that has been constantly hit by the injury bug over the last several years, and that has continued into the 2021 NFL season. You take a look now at the 49ers offensive line depth chart. You're in good shape at left tackle with Trent Williams, who continues to play like one of the best left tackles in the game. So dominant in the run game as well as the pass game. He was dominant yesterday. That's been the constant storyline all throughout the season when healthy. Laken Tomlinson has actually been one of the most serviceable and better left guards across the National Football League this year. Alex Mack, free agency signing, has proved to be a very good signing. Daniel Brunskill, really not a great right guard. Aaron Banks, the rookie out of Notre Dame, who was selected in the second round, hasn't been able to unseat him. It speaks a lot to where Aaron Banks is right now. And now Mike McGlinchey out of the equation as the right tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. Tom Compton stepped in for him when he went down with that quad injury yesterday to Arizona, and he didn't play well, giving up 2 sacks on Jimmy Garoppolo in the process. So Tom Compton was bad yesterday, and as I mentioned off the top, we're going to take a look at some of these Mike McGlinchey replacements, which includes Tom Compton. But so many people have been ragging on Mike McGlinchey for not living up to the lofty expectations of being a top 10 pick back in 2018 out of Notre Dame, and that's fine. But while Mike McGlinchey hasn't been great, this is not good news. You're protecting Jimmy Garoppolo. If Trey Lance ends up playing at some point this season, it is of the utmost importance to keep him upright and healthy, both physically and mentally, because if Trey Lance, a rookie quarterback, starts to suffer from mental lapses, you're looking at a precarious situation in which his play could go downhill, and Mike McGlinchey was the guy protecting the quarterbacks on this roster regardless of who is playing. And when Tom Compton steps in and gives up 2 sacks, that's as many sacks as Mike McGlinchey had given up in 8 games this season. You look at his Pro Football Focus grades this year, they've actually improved over the last couple of weeks, and they're actually pretty average. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 70.4, pass blocking grade, of 70 flat. He has not been good in the run game. Not good at all. He's really struggled there to open up running lanes for Elijah Mitchell and some of the other backs on this roster. That Pro Football Focus grade standing at 64.8. And while Mike McGlinchey has gotten beat at times in pass protection and has failed to open up some of those running lanes, he's only given up 2 sacks this year. So that really isn't a terrible number at all. So with the 49ers losing to Arizona yesterday in frustrating, ugly, maddening fashion, falling to 3-5 on the season, with the Los Angeles Rams coming to Levi Stadium next Monday night, are the 49ers still going to make the playoffs? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Get those votes in the comment section right now. It's going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, scroll on down and get your votes in. I know a lot of people in the Niner gang really frustrated right now because this is yet another awful injury to a high-round draft pick. I mean, Javon Kinlaw out for the year because he underwent reconstruction to his torn ACL. That's your 2020 first-round pick, and now your 2018 first-round pick, and Mike McGlinchey also out for the year. And you go back several years and take a look at the first, second, and third round draft picks for San Francisco, it's been a combination of those players just not playing well and living up to the expectations of being those high round draft picks or suffering from a lot of injuries. Mike McGlinchey now, Javon Kinlaw, Jalen Hurd also selected in the third round a couple years ago in that same draft actually as Mike McGlinchey, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't played in a regular season game. So for Mike McGlinchey, it's yet another story of a first-round pick or a high-round pick being lost for the remainder of the season, and you start to look in the future here, how does that affect him and his status with this organization moving forward? I know a lot of people probably wanted an upgrade at the right tackle spot, but you got left tackle locked down with Trent Williams. He's still one of the best left tackles in the entire game. When you have a player of that caliber there protecting the blind side of your quarterback, and you have a serviceable right tackle who you're paying a decent salary to, but nothing that's too crazy, that's really all you can ask for. Mike McGlinchey out for the year. I'll tell you in a few moments how we can send you a free San Francisco 49ers jersey, but first, shout out to today's sponsor, BetUS, for making today's show possible. You can get a 125% deposit bonus by going to chatsports.com/49bet and enter the promo code Niners125. If you deposit $100 or more into your account and you follow all these steps that we're about to tell you about, we will send you a free 49ers jersey. All you got to do, chatsports.com/49bet, enter the promo code Niners125, sign up, deposit $100. You get a 125% deposit back. Lay down a bet of any kind. Fade the Niners if you want, if you're frustrated with this squad and you think Kyle Shanahan should get fired. Email us then that you followed all those steps, jersey@chatsports.com. We will send you a free jersey right now. All sizes, all colors, Nick Bosa, Trey Lance, George Kittle will get you hooked up. Next up on the docket for today's breaking news episode here on the 49ers Report, Mike McGlinchey replacements, a combination of guys who are still out there on the free agency market, as well as on-roster replacements who could take over for McGlinchey at right tackle. Now, as I always say, this deep into the season, there are reasons, and plenty of reasons, why these guys are still available as free agents. Mitchell Schwartz, Russell Okung, Rick Wagner, DeMar Dotson, Roderick Johnson, all varying in ages and all varying reasons why these guys are still available out there on the open market. Now, a couple of big names on this list. Probably the two biggest, it's Mitchell Schwartz, it's Russell Okung, both of those guys 32 years old. Mitchell Schwartz coming off of back surgery, which I find to be very problematic. Russell Okung last year, some soft tissue injuries, especially to that calf, missed a lot of time. And then those other guys, I simply wouldn't take chances on them unless you're bringing them in as pure depth pieces. If I had to make one move, it would probably be Mitchell Schwartz if the health stuff all checked out. This guy has a long pedigree and a long list of successes that he's been able to put forward in his NFL career. First team All-Pro in 2018. That was only 3 years ago. So he's 3 years removed from being a first team All-Pro. Started his career with the Cleveland Browns. A lot of years of success with the Kansas City Chiefs. 3-time second team All-Pro on top of that first team All-Pro selection. Super Bowl champion back a couple years ago with that Chiefs team that took down the 49ers in the Super Bowl, but underwent that back surgery in February. And when you're looking at a guy, especially at the offensive tackle spot, where leverage is so important, where power is so important, where you really have to use your lower half as well as your back, and you're talking about a guy who had to undergo a pretty serious back surgery, that kind of spells disaster. As for the on-roster options right now, who took over for McGlinchey yesterday? Well, he didn't play a good game at all. It was Tom Compton, gave up 2 sacks on Jimmy Garoppolo. That's as many sacks, as I mentioned, that Mike McGlinchey had given up over the span of 8 games. He's the primary backup at right tackle behind McGlinchey, who figures to be the starter against the Los Angeles Rams, a Rams defense that has a really good D-line. As for Jaylon Moore, a lot of people watching yesterday probably asking, why the hell didn't Jaylon Moore take over for Tom Compton or replace Mike McGlinchey? Well, the 49ers drafted him out of Western Michigan this past draft in the 5th round with the hopes that he would play guard. Then, with Trent Williams out for a period of time during training camp, they put Jaylon Moore in at left tackle, and they were like, you know what, he's playing pretty well. When Trent Williams didn't play a couple weeks ago, it was Jaylon Moore who actually played pretty solid football at the left tackle spot. And that's where he primarily played at Western Michigan. Now, sometimes tackles have a difficult time going from left tackle to right tackle or right tackle to left tackle. Andre Dillard had explained it like trying to write with your opposite hand. I don't think it's really that difficult, but it is an opposite side of the offensive line. Another option that I really don't like, but it's certainly being thrown out there, that's moving Daniel Brunskill from right guard to right tackle and then playing your second-round pick Aaron Banks at right guard, allowing Brunskill to slide out to right tackle. Again, I think that should be the last resort because I think Brunskill, at best, is just a serviceable backup right guard who's been thrust into a starting right guard position. And if Aaron Banks hasn't been active for the majority of this season as a second-round pick, what does that tell you about his development? What does that tell you about how the coaching staff thinks of him? That he's simply not ready to play, or frankly, he might not be any good at all. Before we get out of here, again, this is a reminder for why you subscribe to the 49ers Report. When breaking news happens, I send out a tweet on Twitter saying a video's coming up soon, and we have you covered within the hour. So hit that red subscribe button down below. Let's get to 44,000 subscribers, and let's hope that the damn 49ers can turn this season around.